And if you're looking forward, which I really want to take this now, looking forward, the Red Sox either get the Astros or the White Sox. We're going to get to that series next, but I just want to look at it in the lens of the Red Sox. This pitching, in my opinion, needs to be a lot better. You know, Eduardo Rodriguez was really good last night, given the situation. They're up 5 runs. He gave up 2 over 5, but he was pretty good compared to what he had done earlier in the series. Now, a guy like Chris Sale giving up 5 runs in 1 inning pitched, you know, that's just really unacceptable from a guy you think is your ace. And moving forward against a tough Astros lineup, a White Sox lineup that's pretty good, whichever team you get, the pitching's going to need to step up. And I think Houston's pitching's not great. That's going to be in maybe a football terms, but a shootout, whatever it would be called in baseball. But a lot of runs we put up in those games. And maybe the Red Sox like that, but Houston's not going to shy away from scoring runs. They've done plenty of run scoring in their series against the White Sox. I think, you know, the pitching needs to step up for for the Red Sox if they go to play Chicago or Houston. That's the biggest thing. I mean, maybe you guys see it differently. I just want to get your term, Sam. I'll start with you. You know, this Red Sox moving forward, what do they need to do, you know, to get into the ALCS and, you know, win that series to move on to the World Series?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you make a good point. Obviously, you can't have your ace, you can't have your guy, Chris Sale, you know, struggling in the playoffs and expect to advance for very long. That's just doesn't really make much sense. But for me, I mean, I know it's like I kind of talked about this with this series as a whole. It was very unique and things happen that don't normally happen in playoff baseball. And then you go down the list and you look at some of the plays that happened in those games. You know, of course, the ball going off Renfroe into the outfield. I mean, that was a weird play, something nobody's ever really seen before, just a weird thing. And then you have the Rays kind of making some errors here and there and making mistakes, which you don't really see. I know they're a young team, but you don't think of that with the Rays. You know, normally they play a good brand of baseball and you don't see that happen too often. That happened. And maybe the crowd plays into that a little bit as well. So something on that, just, you know, before jumping into the potential ALCS is I think, you know, the Red Sox certainly took advantage of some of the mistakes the Rays made, but I think you need to do that in order to beat teams like the Rays. You need to be, in order to beat teams that have won that many regular season games, you need to take advantage of some of those mistakes, and that's what they were able to do there, and maybe take advantage of a little bit of luck here and there to get those big plays. But for the ALCS, yeah, I mean, the pitching is definitely a concern. The Astros pitching, if that's the way it lines up, which it looks like it will, the Astros pitching isn't really that great either. I mean, their lineup is stacked, so that makes things a little bit more concerning. But I mean, I'm looking at this Rays lineup when I'm watching that series, and they have a really solid lineup. I mean, Randy Rosarina in the playoffs is just, you know, Mr. October, you know, absolute beast. And then you have, you know, you go all the way down the list. You have even Kevin Kiermaier in like the 8-9 hole. Like, he's still getting big hits for this team in that spot in the lineup. So the Rays have a really solid lineup as well. I don't know if it compares to Houston. I think Houston's lineup is really, really good also. But the Red Sox, I mean, they've faced it before. They've seen it before. So if that offers a little bit of consolation, I guess, maybe. But you're right. I mean, in a 7-game series, best of 7, you need Chris Sale to step up. You need Eduardo Rodriguez to be consistent, although he did have a good start later on in the series against the Rays as well. So that was big. But you need Chris Sale. That's where everything starts. I trust Evaldi. And I think I like Eduardo Rodriguez going forward. Evaldi's great in the playoffs, but Chris Sales is what starts that. I mean, obviously he's going to probably get game 1 with the rest now. Not exactly sure how it'll line up, but it's a little concerning to say the least. It definitely is. The bullpen is also big, almost more concerning for me. I mean, I'm never comfortable with a lead with them at times. So not only in the regular season, but also here in the playoffs. So I think you're right. It's going to be a really high-scoring series if they play the Astros or the White Sox, which is another, I guess, weird thing about the playoffs. Normally, you see a lot of pitcher's duels. You're not really seeing that with this Red Sox team, and I don't think you're going to see that in the ALCS either.
Yeah, I mean, the Rays scored an average of 5 runs a game in this series, so you're pretty much asking a lot out of your offense every single night to get you to a win. Now, in this series, they more than did that in games 2, 3, and 4. But, you know, is it really sustainable through the whole postseason? Is your offense really going to carry you this much? I don't know. So the talent's certainly there to do it, but the pitching does need to step up. And yeah, Chris Sale needs to be a lot better than he was in game 2. There's no denying that. But I mean, he pitched well in the last couple months of the season. So you got to hope that this is just one funky start that you can kind of just throw to the wayside and just kind of hope. But his last start against the Nationals wasn't great either.
Yeah.
He was out early in that one too. So
the thing is, though, what's interesting with that is they still trust him. Cora still absolutely trusts Chris Sale. I mean, he was warming in the bullpen to pitch the bottom of the ninth. Pitch the top of the ninth if the Red Sox scored in the 8th inning just yesterday. So that shows, I mean, they still trust him despite the fact that he struggled. So I think, they're going to keep running him out there. So he's got to find a way to figure things out very soon.
Yeah, I mean, with as good as he is, how could you not trust him? But
yeah,
he really does need to step up. And Evaldi's been solid. Eduardo Rodriguez has at least done his job. I don't really know how he's going to hold up against a good lineup like Chicago or Houston, but it really just comes down to Chris Sale. And if Chris Sale can give you, the vintage Chris Sale, I know he's coming off an injury, but if he can at least give you some semblance of that, it puts the Red Sox in a good position. And again, the bullpen, they've really kind of avoided throwing some of their iffy guys. Like, did Barnes get in this series at all?
No, he's been basically just pitching in blowouts. I mean, he isn't really, and that's like losing a closer essentially with how, he was earlier in the year. He was your guy.
He was the guy the first 2 months of the season.
But now he's really not pitching in those spots anymore. So it opens the door to, Garrett Whitlock's been really good.
Been really good.
He pitched last night. He's been great. But outside of that, there's some question marks. Hansel Robles has been tough at times. The bullpen, and then even Houck has given up runs. That's why Cora goes to starters, and that's why he'll continue to do that. I think Pivetta is going to continue to play a role out of that bullpen if he's not starting a game in the series.
Yeah, so I mean, you have Ottavino, who came in a 5-0 game in mop-up duty. Garrett Richards is an option, so there's a couple of concerns. But again, if Alex Cora can handle this bullpen right, I can't really count the Red Sox out in this ALCS.